this is Martin Luther King Jr. weekend.
Yes.
And we're here in this church where God has called you to pastor, but there is some significance historically to the role that this church and that body of faithful believers played in the civil rights movement. Would you mind just sharing a little bit about that story?
Well, so grateful I got a chance to be in this place, but not knowing the history of the building myself, finding out later that these pews and these chairs that we sit in was the same one that Dr. King would sit in.
Wow.
This was one of the meeting places during the Montgomery bus boycott.
Wow.
In fact, this building was rebuilt in 1954.
Okay.
And so in 55, it was a new building.
Wow.
Now, a lot of the huge buildings that you see inside of the city now didn't exist. But inside of this community in 55, this was a new church.
This was one of the newest places
This was
to
a
be.
new church. This was a nice place to be. This was the place. And so this was one of the stations that they would use when people needed rides back and forth to work. People would come here and wait here inside of these pews. And also those who had cars would come outside there and to pick them up and take them back and forth to work. And this was one of the meeting places for Dr. King, for E.D. Nixon, Rosa Parks, Joanne Robinson, a lot of those who worked in this civil rights movement and the bus boycott, they literally met inside this place.
And their pictures are in the lobby.
We have pictures in the lobby where some of those people actually was here. Yeah, actually a jailhouse docket picture. And the most amazing part was the pastor. We had a picture of his jailhouse docket picture back there, where he from here went to jail doing the same thing, standing up for what he believed would bring the city together and make it better.
So 1955, the starting point of the civil rights movement here.
Here.
And that's just significant. And I think there are a lot of believers, they go through their everyday routine. They wonder, could God ever use me? They think God only uses people in grand places or with grand positions. The testimony of this church, the testimony of this neighborhood is that God uses everyday faithful people to literally change the world.
Yes.
And I think that story is one that maybe you've moved to the river region or you've moved to Montgomery. It didn't even realize the significance of what God has done here in the past. What I believe God's doing presently, and what excites me is what I believe God has in store for the future.
I believe that too. And I, like you just said, I moved here. I'm from Mobile, and I did not know the history of this community and certainly this building. You know, I came here in 1983 in the Air Force, and I just happened to stay once I got out of the Air Force. And when I was called into the ministry and actually was led inside of this building, it was just a vacant place. Wow. I didn't come in knowing the history or the value.
Wow.
You know, just walking in and just an old building, you know, that we can kind of have Bible study, we thought. And something that we could afford. It's on the side of town we could afford. It's a place, and didn't know God was leading us to do what we're doing today. Looking back, we had no idea what we'd be doing now.
Well, it is Martin Luther King weekend, and when we have holidays in our nation, whether it's Memorial Day, we've honored our veterans recently, just a few months ago, and holidays are an opportunity to stop, reflect, remember, honor, express gratitude. I would be curious if you would just share from your heart, what does Martin Luther King holiday mean to you personally?
My birthday this year is Dr. King's holiday.
Wow.
So yeah, so
happy birthday.
Thank you. But what it really means for me is that I get a chance to see a guy who only lived to be 39, who life work impact the world. You know, he was only 39 when he was killed. And when he actually came to Montgomery, he was 25 years old.
Wow.
And so I told the kids, I said, look at Dr. King, 1955. Look at his body of work over that short period of time and how his work has still impacted the world and still live today. Yeah. And so that's the motivation that I have, you know, that, listen, I need to do more. I need to do better. I need to give more of myself. I think of all that he gave. I can imagine the fear of trying to raise a family with all the violence, all the hatred and all those things was going on. But he had a purpose, he had a call, and he served that call, not for himself, but that the world might be better. And that's where I celebrate that day. I roll my sleeves up. That's why I want to serve that day. That's why that day I want to give back because of what he did in his life.
That's so well said, Pastor Ken. I thank you for just that reminder that God has called all of us to a purpose, and that purpose it doesn't always revolve around us. It revolves around His plan and how He wants to use us for such a time as this, wherever He has us. Pastor Ken, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of what God's doing in and through you, through Mercy House, through your church. And we're just so grateful and excited about what God's going to do in this new year. So thank you for your time together today.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.